Solomon sir.
Yes, Father.
வந்துட்டீங்களா? ஓகே ஓகே.
Yes, Father.
ரூபக் சார் ரெடியா?
ரெடி ஃபாதர்.
ஓகே ஓகே ஓகே. சலமன் சார் மற்றவங்க நீங்க மீட் பண்றது பார்த்துங்க.
ஓகே ஓகே ஃபாதர்.
நம்ம இப்போ அப்படியே ஒரு சின்ன ப்ரேயரோட நம்ம ஸ்டார்ட் பண்ணா கரெக்டா இருக்கும் சார்.
ஓகே ஓகே ஃபாதர்.
பிரவீனா மேம், ஆர் யூ ஆன் தி லைன்?
Yes, Father, I'm on.
ஓகே ஓகே ஓகே. Solomon sir, with a small introduction. நாங்க அப்படியே ப்ரேயர் எல்லாம் பண்ண சரியா இருக்கும் சார்.
கரெக்டா 59 தான் வந்திருக்காங்க.
ஓ அப்படியா? சரினா ஒரு 2-3 minutes வெயிட் பண்றோம்.
ஒரு 5 minutes வெயிட் பண்ணுங்க. லைவ் போயிடுச்சு. லைவ் ஆக்டிவிட்டி தான் செக் பண்ணுங்க. வீடியோ லிங்க் செக் பண்ணுங்க.
பேக் பண்ணுங்க. கரெக்டா வருது சார். ப்ராஜெக்ட் லைஃப் சைக்கிள் மேனேஜ்மெண்ட் அதே வருது. ப்ராஜெக்ட் லைஃப் ஸ்டைல்
இது மட்டும் தான் காட்டும்.
ஓகே. ஓகே.
அவர் வந்து இந்த பிரசன்டேஷன் அவர் முடிக்கிற வரைக்கும் இதே ஸ்கிரீனே வெக்க சொல்லுங்க. தட் மீன்ஸ் இதுக்கு அடுத்த ஸ்கிரீன் வரும்ல.
ஓகே.
அவரோட பிரசன்டேஷன் சோ அன்பின் மட்டும் பிரசன்டேஷனை க்ளோஸ் பண்ண வேண்டாம்னு மட்டும் சொல்லிடுங்க.
ஓகே ஓகே ஓகே.
கடைசியா க்ளோஸ் பண்ணிக்க சொல்லுங்க.
என்னங்க சார்?
கடைசியா க்ளோஸ் பண்ணிக்க சொல்லுங்க.
ஓகே ஓகே ஓகே. ஓகே ஓகே.
ஓகே ஃபாதர், ஒரு 2 minutes கழிச்சு நீங்க உங்க வொர்க் ஸ்டார்ட் பண்ணிடலாம்.
ஓகே சார். இப்போ இந்த ஃபீட்பேக் எல்லாம் கரெக்ட்டா கொடுத்துட்டீங்களா சார்? அது ஃபீட்பேக்
ஃபீட்பேக் செஷன் 3 அது ஆன்ல தான் இருக்குது.
ஓகே. ரிஷி வந்து சர்டிஃபை அதுவும் ஆன்ல கொடுத்துட்டாரு.
கொடுத்தாச்சு. பாத்து அத செக் பண்ணேன் நானு.
ஓகே ஓகே ஓகே.
அது ஓபன்லயே இருக்கட்டும். அது பட் உங்களுக்கு இந்த ஸ்கிரீன் மட்டும் தான் தெரியும்.
ஓகே. ஆமா, அது மட்டும் தெரியுதாமா?
அவ்வளவுதான்.
ஓகே ஓகே.
சரி, அத நம்ம நம்பர் பண்ணிட்டோமா?
ஓகே சார். ஓகே ஓகே சார்.
எனக்கு ஸ்லோவா இருக்கும். டிவியூவர்ல எடுத்து வர்க் பண்ணும்போது உங்களுக்கு அந்த நெட்வொர்க்ல டிலே இருக்கும்.
ஓகே ஓகே சார். ஓகே ஓகே.
ஓகேங்களா?
நான் பாத்துறேன்.
வரவங்களே நீங்க அட்ஜஸ்ட் பண்ணிக்கங்க.
ஓகே ஓகே சார். ஓகே ஓகே. ஓகே சார். ஓகே.
100 தாண்டிட்டோம்னா அப்புறம் நீங்க அப்படியே ஆரம்பிங்க. அவ்வளவுதான். ஒரு பிரேயர் ஸ்டார்ட் பண்ணி கரெக்டா இருக்கும். அவ்வளவுதான்.
ஓகே சார். ஓகே சார்.
அந்த வார்த்தை
ஓகே சார். ஓகே சார். தேங்க் யூ சார்.
நான் யூடியூப்ல பாக்குறேன் ஃபாதர்.
ஓகே சார். தேங்க் யூ சார். தேங்க் யூ. தேங்க் யூ.
ஓகே ஃபாதர்.
தேங்க் யூ சார். தேங்க் யூ சார்.
நான் க்ளோஸ் பண்ணிக்கிறேன். இதுக்கு அப்புறம் அவரை பார்க்க சொல்லிக்கிறேன்.
ஓகே சார். ஓகே சார். ஓகே.
நான் க்ளோஸ் பண்ணிட்டேன் ஃபாதர்.
ஓகே சார். ஓகே சார். ஓகே. தேங்க் யூ சார். தேங்க் யூ so much சார். Solomon sir.
Yes, Father. We will start, Father.
கொஞ்சம் அந்த பிரீஃபா சொல்லிடுங்க. அந்த ரூல்ஸ் ரெகுலேஷன்ஸ் எல்லாத்தையும் சொல்லிட்டு we can start. யார் பவித்ரா வராங்க?
Yes, I request the participants unmute their audio and video, and also don't click on the presentation icon. Please click on the join icon alone. If you start doing like that, it will be continuous disturbance for the resource person. He will not be able to have the continuous flow on his speak. So I request everyone not to disturb the resource person. Kindly mute your audio and video. Thank you. Now it's time to start our session. We start our webinar first and the third session now. I invite Reverend Father Dr. Adakle Swami to lead us in prayer. Father?
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for your invitation. So today we are having the third session of International Webinar Series 1. So let us all close our eyes. Let us ask the grace of God. The Spirit of the Lord is among us. Abba Father, Almighty God, we prayed and thanked for the gift of St. Joseph Arts and Science College, especially the PG Department of Commerce. And in a way, we remember our founder and chairman, Reverend Father J. Arul Raj, our administrator, Reverend Dr. K. Sandhya, our principal, vice principals, all the HODs and staff members. I entrust everyone into your hands, especially, dear Lord Almighty God, our resource person, Mr. Rubek Sagayam, into your hands. Lord, give your grace and power to enlighten him, to give the knowledge to express for us. And it's a great pleasure for us also to have Mr. Rubek Sahayam in our midst. Our Father, you have given good health and good job opportunity for him. Continue to bless him with all your blessings. And also, I surrender all the people, those who are working behind the screen. Lord, be with them, strengthen them, and fulfill all their needs in their future. And also, I surrender all my colleagues, my students, and especially the PG Department of Commerce into your hands. We thank for all the gifts you have done for our department. Continue to shower your grace upon us. Mother Mary, intercede for us. St. Joseph, intercede for us. We ask this prayer through Christ our Lord. Amen.
Thank you, Father. Now I invite Mrs. Pravina ma'am, Assistant Professor, PG Department of Commerce, to welcome the resource person. Please, ma'am.
Yes, sir. Good evening, everyone. I am happy to deliver the welcome address on behalf of our founder, Reverend Father Dr. J.E. Arulraj, our administrator, Reverend Sister Dr. K. Sandhya, our principal, Dr. R. Ruben, and our vice principals, Mrs. Shamla Alexander and Mrs. Vijay Lakshmi, our head of the department, Reverend Father Dr. Adikala Swami, and staff members of PG Department of Commerce. Today's resource person is Mr. Rupek Sahayam. He is working as a proposal engineer in Delta Controls FZ company in UAE, Dubai. Sir has a vast amount of experience in the field of project management. So, which we decided, Sir is the eminent speaker for this topic, project management. Now, I hand over the session to Mr. Rupek Sahayam. Sir will enhance in the chapter of project management.
Thank you,
Thank
ma'am.
you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Now I request our resource person, eminent resource person, Mr. Sagayam, Rupek Sagayam, sir, to address the gathering on the topic project lifecycle management. Please, sir.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Rupek, and today we are going to look up and touch up a little upon the topic of project management, especially project lifecycle management, since it's one of the key pillars of the project management study. As I go, I will first explain about what I'm doing, and then what my company is doing, and further we will go deeper into the subject and understand what the core management practices that we can follow. Basically, we can here we have our agenda which we'll be following today. So we'll be talking about control systems, because PLCs and control systems are the core of our business over here. We are doing project management on control systems. I'll be explaining about our company profile. I'll also be touching a little bit about the theoretical aspect of project management, project lifecycle management, and project processes and milestones. Then we'll go deeper into how it is actually applied in real world conditions, and how such kind of environmental situations such as COVID-19 and other socio-political situations are affecting modern day project management. We will also talk about how to overcome these hurdles. And finally, we will go on to summarization and then Q&A of the whole topic. I would like to thank Father Adikala Swami, as well as the organizers, for giving me this opportunity. Also, I would like to thank all the listeners because this would be really a deep and essential topic that could widen your knowledge base. So in my presentation, I wouldn't have so much of matter. Most of the presentation you can see, I would have bullet points, and I would have a lot of pictures for you to understand, because visually, if you see more pictures, it's better to understand. And please follow what I'm saying, because I would be giving a lot of information over voice. So I request everybody to please mute your mics, and do not share your screen, or do not share your video. This would make the whole presentation much more easier and much more fluent for the presenters and the organizers, as well as the listeners. Thank you very much, everybody. I think we will go into the presentation now. So as I said, my name is Rupek. I did my primary schooling in countries, mostly Middle Eastern countries, Oman, Saudi Arabia, and the UAE. I also did a little bit of my schooling, I think my 9th and my 10th in India. And I studied in DMI St. Joseph's Residential School in Sri Perumbudur. Afterwards, I came back to UAE to do my 11th and 12th. Following which, I had attended All India Engineering Entrance Exam, and I got placed in National Institute of Technology, Trichy, or REC Trichy, where I got into instrumentation and control engineering. Which is a combination of mechanical engineering, communications, electronics, and electrical engineering. Since the complexity of the branch is very, very high, and it spreads across many scope, that's what made me choose to go into that pathway. Following which, during my study in NIT, I regularly did many projects with foreign companies as well as local companies. Some of the projects are such as a project for Emirates Airlines, which I did in 2012 and 2013. I think most of you would know about Emirates Airlines. It's one of the premier airlines in the world. They fly to nearly every corner of the earth. They have more than 300 aircrafts, and some of the most advanced technologies you can find in aviation will be available over there. So I was majorly working on flight instrumentation and flight control systems. So modern day aircrafts are only flown by pilots about 20% of the time. 80% of the time, the aircrafts are flown by computers. And I was working with Emirates to design some of those computer systems along with Airbus as well as Boeing. Further to that, I also did some in-country projects in India with a company called National Instruments, where we developed control systems, home automation systems, and so on. We also created control over voice technology, which I think in modern day, in everyone's phone, we have Google Assistant as well as Apple Siri. The basis for that, as we see, is on execution. Following that, I went on to do my MBA in Project and Operations Management from Institute of Management Technology. During that time, I had a part-time job in Schneider Electric as a projects intern, and I was working on projects as well as doing my MBA parallelly. During that time, we did a lot of projects again in the Middle East region. If you see the control system application, one of the major application is oil and gas industry. So because of that, in the Middle East, the oil and gas industry is, as you are probably aware, very much prominent. So most of the control system companies are located here in the Middle East. We do have some companies in India as well. I think nowadays the whole automation philosophy is coming over to India as well. So maybe in the future we can expect a lot of technological innovation in India. In the UAE, we do have all the big companies, which I will share you in a few moments. Following my MBA, part of my MBA, I went on to do my postgraduate certificate course in Germany. That is an international business certificate from International School of Management in Germany. It is located in a place called Dortmund, near Dusseldorf. And over there, I learned about international business and international strategies on project and operations management. Many of the projects, modern day projects, do not only they are not bound by boundaries. They are across international borders and boundaries. So you would see projects maybe across multi-country projects, for example, where a particular item is coming or manufactured in a particular country, and it is transferred to another country for the integration, and then transferred to another country for the testing, and then transferred to another country for the installation in whatever the end client location is. So such kind of projects are very high complex projects which are under execution in my company as well as in other companies. So as I go on, I will give you some example of these kind of projects that are currently in execution, and some of the projects which are already executed. So after my studies, I quit Schneider Electric and I joined Delta Controls as a project proposal engineer, which I will in few minutes I will explain you what project proposal means and how it is critical to project management process. Before I go on into more deeper topics, I would like to share you what a PLC or what control system is. I think most of you are from commercial background, so I'm not going to go too deep into the technical aspects of what a control system is, but I just want to touch and go and give you a simple idea of what a control system is. So basically, a programmable logic controller or a programmable controller is an industrial digital computer which has been ruggedized and adapted for control of manufacturing processes, such as assembly lines or robotic devices, or any other activity that requires high reliability, ease of programming, and process fault diagnosis. Now, in simple layman terms, I would like to tell you what a controller is. Basically, a controller is like your CPU in your computer. So you connect an output and you connect an input to it. The input might be a switch, for example, or a simple thing like your mouse or your keyboard, and the output will be connected to a light bulb, or maybe to more complex things like a motor or a conveyor belt, or it might also be connected to more complex systems such as an oil rig platform or a satellite or a missile, or any other system that you can find in the world. I think PLCs are one of the most common systems which are installed in nearly all the technological innovative things that we have discovered and invented over the years. And even nowadays, we even have cars which are automated, controlled by PLC alone. So PLC is something like the brain which does all the processes, and you will have the inputs such as steering wheel or a gear knob in a car, and you have the output going to the engine of the car and to the drive shaft through the wheels. You will have the power to the vehicle. So that's basically what a control system is. I don't want to go more deep into it because there are a hell lot of complex topics that you can go deep into it. If you are interested in it, you definitely can Google and then find out more about it. But for our topic for today, I think this would be sufficient. So let's go on to the uses or the application of control systems. As I said, the major application would be oil and gas industry. And this is an oil rig, a semi-submersible oil rig off the coast of UAE. It's located in a concession called the Zadco concession, where you have it produces millions of barrels of oil every year. So this is one of the application. Again, that small PLC which I was showing you before, that controls this whole oil rig, everything, completely automated. In modern days, that creates a lot of safety. You can save lives because oil wells are not a very safe place to work at. You have a lot of hazards, which will be highly minimized by an automated control system than a manual control system, which will be managed by a human being, and we have human error which comes into account. So that's why we use it as in oil rigs. You also have control systems on water and wastewater management. So you have control systems on sewage, sewage treatment plants. I don't know whether you have such kind of plants in India. I think it's very few in India, but in the UAE, we have a hell lot of sewage treatment plants where, water is a very scarce resource in the UAE. So we try to make the best use of water. So we have control systems which control huge plants such as these. And we also have the PLC system for water application, water pumping to your taps, water pumping to the whole city, dams, everywhere you have PLC systems. You also have PLC system in the industrial areas or the industrial application where you have in metal and metallurgy industry, in food and beverage industry, in Coca-Cola factory, Pepsi factories, all the factories, they use PLCs. And this is one of the major application of PLC. Again, this is actually a power plant. So all the power plants that you see around, I think in India, in Tamil Nadu, you have Kudangulam power plant, you have Neyveli lignite plant. All these plants use PLC system, and they are one of the most state-of-the-art application of control systems right now. So you have even atomic plants, nuclear plants, all running on PLC system and all depending upon PLC system for the safety aspect of it. So I would like to now go upon what my company is doing. So I work for a company called Delta Controls. They are one of the leading automation solution provider in the Middle East. They started out at 2012. We are about 100 experienced employees, mostly engineers. And we have over 800 installations worldwide of control systems. We also have expertise in LV systems, MV systems, HV, MCC systems, which are electrical systems, by the way. We are majorly experts in control and instrumentation systems, such as pressure transmitters, flow transmitters, PLCs, PACs, RTUs, and so on. We are also experts in telecom systems like CCTV system, servers, PCs, workstations, and a system called SCADA, which is basically supervisory control and data acquisition system, which controls the electrical, the control system, the networking, and all other systems of a plant onto your screen. So modern day networking has allowed us to even control a plant such as the Kudangulam plant just from your mobile. So that is the kind of complexity, and that's the kind of modern day expertise that we are having. Now, we are located in Dubai. Our head office is in Dubai, in a place called Jebel Ali Free Zone area, which is a large industrial area near the port of Jebel Ali, which gives us a lot of benefits since it's a free zone. We have 3 facilities here in the Dubai facility, in the Dubai office. It's split on a production area and a testing and fat staging area and a sales office. We have a capacity about 100 panel integration at the same time, so we can create 100 systems, 100 control systems at any single point in time. And we also have sales and support offices in Abu Dhabi, Oman, and India. Now the PLCs, again, the major makes of PLCs are listed below. You can find Rockwell Automation, Siemens, Schneider Electric, ABB, HEMA, General Electric, and Honeywell. These are few of the major players, but we have a hell lot of makes on PLC system. I think probably a person who's interested in it, you can go and then research a bit more on these kind of systems. So some of our clients, our major clients are ADNOC, which is Abu Dhabi National Oil Corporation, ADMA, and ADCO, which are also Abu Dhabi oil corporations, Borouge, another one of a major oil and gas player, Kuwait Oil Company, run by the government of Kuwait, which is also one of the major oil companies in the world. Schlumberger is also, they are a drilling expert actually, one of the major in the world. I think it's a very famous name. Most of you might have heard about it. Saudi Aramco, which is the Saudi American oil company that was one of the first oil companies in the Middle East to discover oil and set up wells for that. We have Takrir, which is the refining wing of Abu Dhabi Oil Corporation. We also give control systems to companies which are like municipalities, like Dubai Municipality, Sharjah Municipality. We also go on for building of transformers for Dubai Electricity and Water Authority, DEWA, or Federal Electricity and Water Authority, FEWA, and Sharjah Electricity and Water Authority, which is SEWA. In Dubai, we have a concept called district cooling system, which is basically we don't have individual ACs for each house or split ACs for each house like in India. We have like a central AC system which is connected to a central cooling system. So you have like a region or a group of buildings which will have like central cooling done by one plant. And this kind of application is very peculiar to the UAE. You will find many of installations in the UAE because this is very, very efficient, and we are in the process of reducing a lot of greenhouse gases which are produced by ACs and window ACs and split ACs. So UAE has a very much a country which looks upon the green energy and the green aspect of human beings developing. We just try to be as green as possible, thus introducing such kind of complex cooling systems, so which are delivered by companies like Empower and EMAR, also another cooling system company. We have metal and metallurgy, EGA, which is Emirates Aluminium Company, which is one of the largest makers of aluminium products. We have Zatco, which is an oil rig or an oil and gas producing company. We have ENI, again, one of the leading oil and gas producers. Lukoil, I think this is also a very famous company. Again, one of the oil and gas producers. Basra Gas Company, this is located in Iraq. It is in collaboration with a company called Shell. I think most of you would have heard Shell. So that's Basra Gas Company. It's a very large, they have a very large installation base as well as a refining process and so on. Gasco, again, the gas producing wing of ADNOC Oil Company. We have Star Energy, which is again an oil tanking company, oil storage system. EMAR, I think I would have already mentioned, they have distinct cooling system as well as other city automation systems. EMAR is a company partially owned by the government of Dubai. They are one of the largest property builders and city developers in the UAE, as well as in Dubai. You must have heard many of their achievements, such as the Burj Khalifa, the tallest building in the world, was built by EMAR. We also have Emirates National Oil Corporation, which is ENOC, another oil corporation in the UAE, which is owned by, partially owned by the Dubai government. By the way, most of the oil and gas applications in the UAE are in Abu Dhabi, because Dubai has very few resources of oil. So we are moving right now more towards tourism and other sources of income than oil and gas. So let's go into our topic, which is project management. So projects are defined as a temporary endeavor undertaken to create a unique product, a service, or a result. This is according to project management body of knowledge. I think everybody knows there are two major institutes for project management. That is a project management body of knowledge, as well as project management institute, PMI. And projects can be really simple and they can be really complex. For example, you going to a shop and buying a can of milk is a project. Basically, you are the project manager over there and you are executing. And it can be really complex as well. Like, for example, building an oil rig, or building an aircraft, or a very complex project. For example, even today's session and today's seminar is a project undertaken by the PG Commerce Department of St. Joseph's College. So projects can be in different forms and in different varieties, and it can have different outcomes, solutions, products, service. So I think everybody in their life, they would have been a project manager. So projects is something that is in our day-to-day life. So that is something that we have to think about. And projects always have an outcome, they always have a deliverable, and they always have an handover. So again, as I said, building a renovation or a wedding or a dinner party or a new product development, everything is a project. So not necessary that a project should be something to create a unique product only. It can be anything. So we'll go on to the next topic, which is the project life cycle. Now, each project, they have a certain process, and this process is split into phases. So it has a series of phases, starting from initiation to completion. And this allows project managers to do a lot of problem solving, to do a lot of troubleshooting, and it's one of the key management tools of project management. So it contains a sequence of phases which have a certain order of execution. Now, when you follow this order of execution, you will most likely end up in completion of your project, provided you follow all the project processes as well as different milestones that you have to achieve. You can easily complete the complete project from the initiation to the completion. So this again, I like to view every problem that I face in from a control point of view. So in order to control a particular device or a particular system or a particular project, for example, first we need to monitor the project. So unless and until you know what are the parameters or what is affecting your project, you cannot control it. So control is like certain measures that you have to do in the process of the project to basically get you back on track towards the completion. So as I said, there are four major phases. There is the initiation phase, then you have the planning phase, then you have the execution phase, and finally you have the completion phase. So we will go into each of these phases in detail. The initiation phase is basically where a project is identified in its initial stage, and it signals the start of a particular project. Basically, you develop a scope over there. You find what is the problem, and you try to create a solution for that problem, and that is where the initiation phase comes into play. The second phase we'll be looking at is the planning phase. Now, this phase is where a project solution is further explored, and the steps necessary to achieve the goal is planned. For example, this is a phase where the rough ideas of the initiation phase are polished to create structured work analysis and structured work system and resource allocation to achieve the final completion. So these two phases, which is the initiation phase and the planning phase, this is the most critical, even though it might seem like something that's very simple, but this is the core of a project. If you get the initiation phase or the planning phase wrong, you're going to screw up the whole project. So that is where project managers, most of the time, they spend a lot of energy and a lot of time in deciding the initiation and the planning phase. So following the planning phase, we come into the execution phase, where I think is very simple, because once you do the planning, you very well know how much resource you're going to allocate, what is the cost of your project. You will also know when you are going to finish your project, and you will also know how you are going to do, with how many people, and what are the different steps involved, and what are the raw materials that you would require, and how are you planning to procure it. You have already done all of the study in planning phase. So in the execution phase, you are just going to go and execute. The only thing that a project manager should keep in mind during the execution phase is that all the processes which were planned or which were already decided in the planning phase should be followed in the execution phase. So there has to be certain controls, and there has to be certain intervention by the project manager, where he will put the project back on track towards completion. So this is basically a project life cycle. Now this is mostly I have created this project life cycle with a system integration point of view or a control system project point of view. So basically, first we have the requirement identification or the scope identification, wherein a factory owner will come to a company like ours, and they would say that, we want to achieve this particular thing, or we want to achieve a process which allows us to create, for example, Coca-Cola bottles. Okay, so they want a machine to create Coca-Cola bottles. So they would come to us and they say that, okay, we want to achieve this, and we want to create a Coca-Cola bottle for every 2 seconds or 3 seconds, for example. So we take the particular problem, and then we try to solve the problem. We create or we assess the technology market, and then see what's available in the market right now, and then we create a system which will be able to solve the major problem that the particular client wants. So first, what we do is we go for a site visit, or we go for a site survey, where engineers like me, who are project proposal engineers or design engineers, we go to the site, we assess, we see what is the problem, we see what are the resources available to us, what can be done and cannot be done. We also hear from the customer in a lot of pre-sales meetings about what the customer wants, and based on that, we will go back to the drawing board and then start sketching on what the design of the control system is going to be. So first, once we get the design in place, we again, a technological design will not, maybe when you are studying in a school, or when you're studying in a college, a design might be just a design. But when you come out to work in a company, the design is always accompanied with a cost or a price, because the major part of any customer, the major concern for them is cost. So they would give you a budget, so your whole design should be under that budget, and you will be estimating, or you will be designing based on that cost budget in your mind. So based on my design, again, as I said you before, I'm a project proposal engineer. So this initiation phase will be done by me. So till project initiation docket, we have the initiation phase. So all these 3 points, which are requirement identification, feasibility study or problem solving, design and estimation, and project initiation docket, which is basically my report to our management as well as our client, which tells our client that this is what we are going to offer, this is the scope, this is the system, this is the resource that we are going to allot, and this is the price, and this is the time that it will take. So my report will give all, or a clear cut understanding of what a project is. So once I issue that report, or if I may say, there is another word for it, it's called a project proposal or a project offer. So when we give a project proposal or a project offer, the client will analyze through it, and then they will come to a conclusion whether to go ahead with the project, or whether to come back to us and say, this is too much above our budget, or this is too less. They will discuss upon the different design aspect, and they will have engineers to analyze our design, and based on that, or they might have consultants to analyze our design, and based on that, they will agree or disagree on whether to go ahead with the project. Now let's assume that they agree, and we are going ahead with the project. What I will be doing as an engineer, I will be handing over the project to the project execution team. So the project manager will come into play, and I will tell the project manager, so this is the project, this is what our scope is, and this is what our design is. and this is what we are going to achieve. So this is the budget that you have to work inside. So we have something called a kickoff meeting where I will be explaining, or I will be putting forward what my design is. We will also be talking about different stages of the whole project life cycle, different milestones, how is the income of the project, and how is the cash flow of the project. Now these are all topics that can be discussed in deeper. Maybe I'll be touching a little bit upon project milestones. Maybe if time permit, we can even have future sessions on in-depth analysis of each of these topics. But I will just give you a gist for now so that you might understand. So again, we have the kickoff meeting. Once the kickoff meeting is over, now this is the project planning phase. The project planning phase starts from project handover till approval cycles. So in the project planning phase, this is majorly done by the project manager and the project coordinator or the project associate, or some of the project engineers are also involved. So they take up my design and they do an analysis on the cost and the resource necessary. How many engineers are required? How many technicians are required? They will also look at what are the resources, or what are the hardwares which are required, what are the softwares that are required, and how we are going to procure these hardware and how we are going to procure these softwares. They will decide on how much time is to be spent in the production, and how much time is to be spent on each section of the life cycle forward. And they will decide on what are the documentations which has to be prepared. So all these will be happening in cost and resource analysis. Once completed, they will hand over to the documentation team or the design team, which will be creating engineering design documents. Now these documents will be having are mostly done on AutoCAD, and they'll be having a clear general arrangement drawing of the whole system that we are going to offer, about PLCs, how the PLCs are arranged in a cabinet, what is the wiring. They will also talk about what is the system architecture, how it is connected from a software point of view. So it will be having logic diagrams, it will be having cause and effect diagrams. So all these engineering diagrams are prepared, and then it is sent to approval to the end client, and the end client will look at it, and then they will say, okay, this is wrong or this is correct, and they might approve, or they might say, no, we want to redraw this. So then it comes back for redrawing. So it is an approval cycle which goes on, which I think in a medium project it would take about 3 weeks, 3 to 4 weeks. And once the approval cycle is complete, then we come on to the procurement of major hardware. So actually there is a milestone in between these two in between these two processes. Now I will talk about milestone later, then you will understand why milestones are critical to project life cycle. But there is a milestone, and once we cross that milestone, we go into procurement of major hardware. So in procurement of major hardware, what we do is basically we issue purchase orders to other companies, like for example Rockwell, Siemens. I discussed earlier before, Rockwell, Siemens, and so on. So we issue purchase order to them to basically we are buying PLCs. So we buy PLCs, we buy cabinets, we buy wires, we buy terminals. There are a lot of accessories involved with a PLC system. So we buy all of those. We also buy PCs, monitors, servers, server cabinets. These are required for control and monitoring of the control system. So we buy these as well. We buy softwares which are required to run on the control system. Now PLC will be having an inbuilt software and an hardware. So the hardware part also we have to procure, and the software also we have to procure. And then we procure all of these items, and then we go into production and software development. Now, based on what the customer wants, we develop a software program which will allow the PLC to execute upon those instructions in the software. So basically, it is a set of instructions which tell the PLC, okay, in 5 seconds you have to do this, in 2 seconds you have to do this, in 1 second you have to do this. After this process, you have to do this process. So it's like a flow chart. So basically, that software is fed into the PLC system, and then the PLC system will start working based on that. And we also do the production in the same phase. So again, from the procurement of major hardware till FAT or snack clearance, we have the execution phase. So in the execution phase, the major part is the production and the software development. So in production, what they do is they put all of these systems together. They do the wiring, they connect the power cable, they put it in a cabinet, they arrange it in a cabinet, and according to the GA, which is approved. Again, everything goes as by the paper trail. So paper trail is always key. So in the detail engineering, whatever paper that we have made or whatever design paper that we have made, that's what will be followed by the production team. So we have technicians who will be doing all this production. They will do the installation. They will do the software installation. So everything will be done on the PLC. Then it will go on to testing. Now in testing, there will be two major part of testing. First test will be done in-house by our engineers for things like quality assurance, as well as the soundness of the software that we have created. So they'll be testing the hardware, making sure all the hardwares are in place, making sure all the hardwares are up to the quality that we have stipulated. Maybe some ISO standards will come into play. We will have a lot of quality processes which will be done in order to ensure that the particular system is up to the mark. We have something called a safety integrity level, which is basically for safety PLCs. Very, very complex topics. I don't want to go into it, but these are some of the quality processes happen in testing and pre-FAT. So once it clears our company's quality process, we go into FAT or snag clearance. FAT is nothing but factory acceptance testing. So basically what happens in FAT is customers or clients or end clients, they will come to our facility, they will look at our particular product, and they will say, okay, this is good to be handed over, or this is not good. This is, you have certain problems in the software, or you have certain problems in the hardware. I will give you a simple example of FAT. FAT is very similar to when you go to a supermarket to buy an iPhone, and you go to the market and you take the iPhone, or you go to an Apple store and take the iPhone in your hand and you look at it, you check all the buttons are working, you check all the softwares are working. That's basically what a FAT is. So basically the customer will come to our place and they will test the whole system. So that's FAT. And once FAT is complete, maybe there might be some snag clearance, which is basically there might be some software problems, or there might be some wiring problems. Maybe some wiring is not proper. So these kind of things will be cleared. Once cleared, customer will give approval for packing. So we do the packing, and then we either do the delivery, or the customer might come to our facility and pick it up. So it depends upon the delivery policy that we have for that particular project. Now, once it goes to the site, there will be site installation and there will be commissioning and SAT. Now, this is the completion phase. Basically, from FATs and snack clearance to project handover, this is the completion phase. So basically, in the completion phase, what we do is we do the project closing, closing of all the project processes, handing over deliverables, we hand over documents, we hand over materials, we do trainings. Also, there is a financial aspect involved with it, which I will come to in later stage in the project milestone. So once the system goes for installation, we install it in the site. We connect it with all the site equipment like motors, temperature sensors, pressure sensors, flow sensors. All these are connected to the system, and then a complete testing is done. This testing is called commissioning or site acceptance testing, SAT, or commissioning. Now, once the commissioning is complete, basically at the end of commissioning, we know that whatever system that we have given or whatever software we have given is complete and is perfect. Then we go on to project handover, wherein the project manager will hand over the project to the maintenance or to the end client. Also, the end client might ask for some training because this might be a new system for their engineers and their technicians. So they might say, okay, since you guys know about this system, please do the training to our operators and our engineers on maintenance practices, on operation practice, on how to operate a PLC, how to maintain a PLC. All this training happens during the project handover phase. And once the project is handover, the project is completed, the finances are closed. The project managers look at what they have learned from this project or things that should be improved. They analyze how the resources are working, and they analyze what is the efficiency of the whole project life cycle that we have executed. And we create a document, or we create a list of things that we should improve on the next project. And again, the next project will start. So this is basically a project life cycle. I think I have explained in detail most of the topics. Maybe if you have any doubts, you can write it down, and then we can clear it during the Q&A session. We move on to project processes and milestones. Now there is I think in the earlier slides I have talked about project phases. Now we have something called project processes, which are not phases, a little bit different. So I'll tell you what project processes are. They are nothing but steps or tasks or methodologies that occur within a phase, or they can be split across many phases. Now these processes are not phases, and they could span over many phases. As I said, they might be classified into groups based on what they appear in the project life cycle, and they are nothing but the control mechanism of a particular project. So as I said before, you would have I think if you would have paid attention, I would have spoken about a monitoring mechanism. So over here, so project lifecycle is a monitoring aspect of project management, and project processes are a control mechanism of project management. So in the monitoring mechanism, you know what is going wrong where, and in the project processes, you will know how to control it, or what should be done in order to control it. So that's basically the difference between project life cycle as well as a project process. Now, a little bit I want to touch upon the topic of project milestones I have said before. Now, these are nothing but certain milestones or certain end of process in a project where finance comes into play or where payment is done by the end client. So that's where cash flow comes in. So this is the input of cash flow. Now, obviously, you cannot complete a complete project with a certain amount of budget only. You will need a certain percentage of income into a project in order to complete, because everything takes money. Again, resources, hardware, softwares, everything takes money. So these are the major project milestones that we follow in our company. This might differ from company to company, or from region to region, or from project to project. So basically, you will have some cash flow in the award of the project. You will have some cash flow in the technical approval or the major submittal for procurement. You will have some cash flow in for procurement of major equipment, and you will have the last and the least cash flow in the completion of FAT and IFAT. I will tell you why I'm telling it as the least cash flow, because in the previous stages you already would have a major cash flow in to the company in order to do the procurement and to do the technical approval and the documentation and all that. This requires a lot of resource allocation, so that's why we have that cash flow over there. I will go on to the next slide. This is basically a graph which depicts what processes are and what is the relation to phases, and this will give you an understanding of the difference between a process and a phase. So basically we have the initiation process group. If you see over here on the top, we have the initiation process group. So this is basically where things like the project charter is developed, or who are the stakeholders is identified, what is the problem is identified, how to achieve is identified, what is the design is identified. All these things are identified in the initial process group. Now next we have the planning process group, where we have it's usually occurring in the planning phase of the project. Now in this planning process group, we have a lot of activities that gives the project manager on how much time and effort will be put into each stage of the planning. So we have who is the project manager, we decide on who's the project manager, we decide on plant scope, we decide on what are the requirements, we define what is the scope, we create a work breakdown structure, WBS, again one of the very key topics of project management that I'm not going to touch upon right now, because that itself would be like another 1 hour session, so I don't want to touch that right now. Maybe in the future we can go through that. We have plan schedule management. We define activities. We define the sequence of the activities. We estimate the resources, the duration, the schedule. We do a cost management. We determine what is the budget. We do how are we going to ensure quality, like it's called a quality management. And we also do a little bit of HR, whether we need to recruit more people or are we okay with the people that we have. Do we need more resources from outside? Do we need to subcontract resources? All this is decided during the HR planning phase. We also have a communication planning phase where the manager decides on certain intervals where he will communicate with end client on the status of the project, basically He will also give reports. He will be giving a lot of documents which will say on which particular stage they are right now, and will they be able to meet the project deadline. We also have planning. This phase also have for disaster management or risk management. In the event there is a problem such as COVID-19 in the middle of a project, what should a project manager do? All these planning is done in the planning process itself. So relatively speaking, projects will not be affected by a phase major like for example COVID-19. It shouldn't be affected if the planning process is completed properly with risk and disaster management. The project manager will know what to do on such kind of situation. So all that planning is done. We also do a lot of qualitative analysis and quantitative analysis. We also plan how we are going to do the procurement. We also plan how stakeholders come into play. All this process happens in the planning process. Now you see, planning process does not only fall on the planning phase. It falls on initiation phase as well as the execution phase. So that's the difference between the process and the phases. Next, we come upon the executing process. Now, this executing process group is simple. It's basically where a project resource is executing a particular project. So these process group will be having the process of direct and management of the project work. It will also be looking upon the performance of quality assurance, and it will acquire project team, and it will develop a project team. It will manage a project team. It will manage the communications. It will manage the procurement, and it will issue POs or purchase orders. It will also manage the stakeholder engagement. Now, this is basically what we have planned in the planning process is being executed in the executing process. Now, this is a process where most of the money is spent because you have to pay salary, you have to buy items. So this phase, this executing process group, as well as the execution phase, is the part where most of the money in a project is spent. So that's the executing process group. Then we have the closing process group. I will come back to monitoring and control later, but we will go on to the closing process group, which will start at the end of the execution and which will peak in the completion phase, and it will finish. So in the closing process group, we have the payments for the procurement process. We have the close of the project and the close of that particular phase. This is the formal transfer of deliverable to the customer. It is also the administrative closure and the contract closure, and it is performed formally to close out our project. Any training and all is done during this process. Then we have the major process. I think one of the most important process, even though it does not look like important, is basically the monitoring and control process group. Now, this process group occurs all phases of a project life. You can see that graph, the thick dotted line. So you can see it is across all the phases. It ensures that the project is on track, and it flags issues or maintenance to stay on the project course. It also collects performance data from the resources through constant reports from team meetings and status reports. Basically, the processes that are inside the monitoring and control group is monitor and control of project work, performance integrated change control, validation of scope, control of schedule, control of cost, control of quality, control of communication, control of risk, control of procurement, and control of stakeholder engagement. So these are processes and phases. And we will look at the next slide, which gives us a little bit insight on milestones. Now, again, I don't want to go too deep on milestones, but the major milestone is upon award of project, where we get an advance payment or an advance cash flow. Then the next milestone will be during technical approval. Once approval is completed, we get some cash flow, nearly 40 to 50% of the cash flow. During technical approval and procurement process together combined, we get about 50% of the whole project cash flow during that stage. Then we go to the FAT or the snack clearance, where we get about 20 to 30% of the cash flow. And then finally, we go on to the delivery and SAT milestone, where once the SAT is completed, we get the complete cash flow of the project, and the finances are closed at that milestone. So these are milestones. A little bit about how cash flow is managed. I mean, it's a very deep topic that we can go into. Maybe at later sessions we can have that topic. So I'm going to give you some example or some application on the projects that we are doing. So this is one of the major projects that we are doing right now, again, which is affected by COVID-19. I will tell you how it is affected. There are 4 different types of project that we do. First type of project is design, engineering, supply, manufacturing, and programming testing. This is the complete scope of work that is done by my company. The second type of project is called a trading job, or a job which takes a particular hardware and it just you just hand over to the client. Then we have a service job, where you depute an engineer to do a particular job. Then we have the panel build job, where all the items are given by client and we just do the fixing. So these are the 4 types of jobs. Now, the first job is actually affected by COVID-19, but we have something called a cancellation clause, and we have something called a force majeure clause in our conditions and terms, which allows us to get certain percentage of the cash flow in order to cover the cost of the project. Now, this project is actually in suspended, or it's in stop stage. So that is the different types of project that we are executing. Now, these are the project difficulties or action plan. The major difficulty is feature creep and scope creep. This has to be contained by the project manager. And you have failure to establish managerial commitment from the project manager, and you have failure to establish organizational commitment by the management. We also have problems such as shortcuts. We also have problems of project controlling, and economic and political problems, and force majeure. Finally, I think we can come on to the question and answer session. I think if you have any other questions, please let me know. Thank you, everybody, for listening.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir, for addressing us on project lifecycle management topic. Few participants have questions for you, sir. The first one from John Maria Susi, sir, posted, can you please explain once again the system point stage in the product lifecycle?
Which is the stage that you want me to explain?
Yes, sir. Sir asked the point stage, system point stage in project lifecycle.
System point stage.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Exactly.
So basically, all the system part and where we do the system production and all the processes will be completed during the the execution phase and the delivery phase. So mostly you will find from approval cycles onwards is where we are talking about the system part.
So Manikavelu sir also questioned how much we need to invest to start the mini projects. How much we need to invest? Sir?
Sir, actually, it depends upon what is the final budget of the project. See, for example, if you are doing a project for 1 million, the primary investment, obviously, you will be having some permanent investment, which is like, setting up a company or having a pool of engineer to do the bidding process. But in order to start the execution, you will need at least 10% of the project cost. In our company, we have a general term of an advance payment of 25% of the project value, which is required. Yeah.
Prabha Kamalnathan sir asked, can you please mention some tools to deliver projects in ProofHub?
In the current project, in the current seminar, I have touched upon project processes. Each of the project group will have a set of tools. Now, each of the process groups itself can be explained for more time, but since we have the problem of time in hand, I don't want to go in detail into those tools. You can definitely research in Google or on the net on different project process that can be used for controlling. So in the control and monitoring process group, you have a lot of processes that you can use to control. For example, like ERP, even just having an ERP solution, enterprise management solution, software, it's easier to control the process and to complete the particular project.
Okay, sir. Brinda Bhaskaran ma'am asked, is there any project taken based on agriculture? Is there any project we can take up?
See, the major problem is that we are in Dubai, and Dubai is a desert, so we don't have much of agricultural projects in the UAE. But some of our projects taken by our India office in Pune, they deal with agricultural projects. Now, it is the same process everywhere, even for agricultural projects as well. You have the same project process. The only fact is there is no control system. Instead of that, you will be having, for example, planning of the land, tilling of the land, plowing of the land, and then seeding, cultivating, marketing, selling. So these are the process of an agricultural project. So again, it's a different application. We can definitely look into that kind of application as well, if required in detail.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for answering all the questions. Now I invite Mrs. Vidyashree ma'am, Assistant Professor, PG Department of Commerce, to thank the resource person. Ma'am, please, ma'am.
So can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, everyone. So it was an amazing session. But you have discussed in deeper discussion on its phases, life cycle process, monitoring mechanism, and also your personal experience in that field. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I would like to thank again everyone for giving their time and attention, and also for being great audience and answering for all those insightful questions. And I'd like to thank HOD, VP, and all the staff members, organizers, for making this session with giving more knowledge on the project management, also for students and the participants from various fields. Thank you, sir, and thank you, everyone. We appreciate your attendance and also your feedbacks are highly appreciated, participants. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir, for being with us for the entire session. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I really loved giving you the session. I hope I can give you more insight on future sessions. Thank you, everybody.
Yes,
thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rubek. Thank you for your acceptance and excellent presentation. We are really happy about your presentation. Thank you, Rubek. And now Dr. Solomon will give you the details of tomorrow's session. Kindly brief the tomorrow's session, sir.
Yes, sir. Sure, sir. On 30th May, we will be having 2 sessions. The first session will be on the topic how to live with Corona. That topic will be handled by
US Frederick.
US Frederick sir, and another topic will be handled by Mr. One minute, sir. To go through that.
Sagayan. Mr. Sagayan.
Mr. Sagayan, sir. So we post the feedback form in the text box. You can look at it, and also we also send the invitation for the tomorrow's event to your mail ID. Thank you all for attending the webinar series 1. We will be waiting for you in the webinars 2 series tomorrow. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your coordination. Thank you for your master ceremony. And thank you, participants. Tomorrow, let us see again. Tomorrow, we will have the International Webinar Series 2. And I hope that you have enjoyed the session. Tomorrow, let us meet again. Thank you all. So for your kind information, you can fill the feedback form and you will get the e-certificate immediately. For those who do not get the e-certificate in the morning sessions, you can send the email to hodcom@stjosephcollege.ac.in and you will get the certificate again. Thank you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Sir, stream end ஆகும் sir, stream end ஆகும். Sir, stream end ஆகும் முன்னாடி வேற ஏதோ கேக்குது. Error, please use your key frame frequency for 4 seconds or less. Currently key frame. Sir, இது ரெக்கார்ட் பண்ணவே இல்லைங்க சார். நான் ஸ்டாப் ரெக்கார்டிங் வரவே இல்லைங்க.